I've always been fascinated in the concept. I've known the concept a long time. I've known a lot of the history since the guys first started. And I loved Amanda's vision. The fact that she challenged the industry and the concept was so different. And what I love about the brand is that everything is bespoke from the top to the bottom. So whether that be education, whether that be the way that we interact with our guests, that bespokeness suits my style perfectly.
It took a while to get used to not thinking about half a head and full head. It did take a while, and covering grey. I don't think about covering grey anymore. I think about how that guest wants to feel.
I just like to give everyone everything I have now, whereas before I never had the time to do that. I never had the time to treat everyone individually. It was always like I was working from a list, whereas now I don't have a list and I don't have any guidelines. It's everyone is their own person, and I love that now.
Before, I'd have someone in my chair for 45 minutes, so it was literally, I'll just do a haircut, off you go, see you next time. You might come back, you might not. Because I didn't have the time. I didn't have the time to sit there and ask them actually what they really wanted or how they wanted to feel, whereas now I can.
Because everyone is so different and everyone's realised how different they are. Nobody's in a box anymore of what they should have. Everyone wants to be that little bit more different and wants to be seen as their own person, not as the same as someone they see on Instagram. I think looking after yourself makes you realise what you can do for other people as well. So I think taking that time that you encourage other people to take, by me taking that time, it makes me realise what I can then give them. You need to take a step back to realise how much you have moved forward and how much more you can move forward.
I thought I knew the brand, and there was a lot about the brand that I knew, but I learned new things. And also was introduced to that educational path, which again is tailor-made to the individual. So, you know, what I loved about it wasn't just giving me information, it was getting information from me, from what I wanted and how I wanted to progress. And then, you know, remarkable education that's tailor-made for me. You know, I wanted to get back into colour after 25 years, and you know, and the company was all for that. So yeah, I really felt not just welcome, but felt inspired and felt excited for what the next part of that journey was.
I think it was quite nice to go back to the basics when I started, and then start afresh, and then build on that, and then grow. So it was learning different ways to do different things. So I guess it's the fact that one person comes in with one haircut, I know 3 different ways to do it. And then I can tailor that to them, and they can take bits from each of it, or I can just go down one route. So I guess it's having more knowledge, really. Just the reason, like the why behind it, and then you've got that to constantly back you up. That if somebody says, I want this, you can be like, well, I'm going to do this because of this, which is because of this. So there's always support for what you're doing, really.
I think they can sense that I'm excited. I feel a little bit like I've been reborn as far as my hairdressing goes. So I think they can sense that.
I feel like with the chapel, you can be whoever you want to be within a brand. It's like you create yourself, your own brand or nurse or style within a company. I feel really lucky to be part of it.
So I feel like when I first started, I was this little duckling who was nervous and shy, and I was around all these amazing hairdressers, and it made me nervous, whereas now I feel like one of the amazing hairdressers, which I love. I always have that support. It's like I always get that little bit taller with the chapel. I never go down. Such a nice feeling to never have that feel of competition and judgment. I never have felt judged within the chapel, and I think that's such a huge feeling, to feel that everyone has your back and you can all learn from each other, that you have something to give and they can give you that much in return as well. I love that.
Probably the scariest thing I'd ever done.
Why?
Why? Because I'd been in my comfort zone for so long that this was the first time of me ever stepping out.
I always say with hairdressers, we don't believe in ourselves enough. And I think this is an opportunity when our clients, our guests are believing more in us. It's a real opportunity now for us to believe in ourselves.
Trust me guys, you feel heard, you start to love your job again, and you're forever reminded why you chose hairdressing as the career.
Just do it, because I didn't feel Like I was working in a little town salon in the Midlands, like hundreds of miles away, and it's just a risk. And sometimes you've got to take a risk to find out if that's the right path you're on.
You know, if you want to work in a creative environment that's inspiring, but also doesn't feel that pressure of like, you feel a little bit like a conveyor belt, then I think the chapel's definitely for you. I think, and secondly, I would say the education. I mean, I've worked for some great companies that have amazing education programs, but I will say honestly that this one is developed bespoke to you. You know, Rebecca and Simon are great at listening to what your needs are and then tailor making that education to fit your needs. So you as well as feeling inspired, you feel like you're growing and developing still. I mean, I'm 52 years old and I still feel every day that I'm learning new stuff. And it's relevant, and I think it can only be relevant because they spend so much time listening to what I need and then finding that, whether that be inside the company, and if it's not, they'll find it outside the company. So I think that would be my message to anyone that's thinking of joining the chapel, that you really do feel it's a safe environment, you're looked after, you're nurtured, and at the end of the day, every day you become a better hairdresser.